that, we're going to move on and take a look at the other game. And gee whiz, the stakes, you thought they were high in that Georgia-Romania game. They couldn't be higher in this one. Somebody is going home in tears after this one. Yeah. Madrid is going to be the scene of the bloodbath, the Iberian derby from hell.
Indeed,
Spain
much anticipated.
versus Portugal in the Estadio Central in UCM in Madrid. This is going to be kicking off on Sunday. Great occasion. They should have put all the games on Sunday, given the Six Nations doesn't clash with them. But it'll be out there by itself. 1:45 local time, 11:45 UK and Irish time. Obviously, much anticipated game. It's finally here. It's finally upon us.
Los Leones versus Os Lobos, the Wolves and the Lions going at it.
And Los Leones are the form side in this competition.
They are.
Coming off victories 38-21 over Romania, huge victory. They had big victories over Russia when they were still a thing, and the Dutch as well. Yeah. They're obviously 4 points ahead on the qualifier table
and riding a 5-game win streak into this one, which is pretty good stuff. Portugal did win their last as well, but 5 games in a row. It
feels like they're in a position, they're the 4-game advantage over Portugal, the 4-point advantage over Portugal, where you might be inclined to think, a losing bonus point isn't the worst thing for them. They do play Georgia next weekend. That is a huge factor here. I believe that's in Tbilisi.
Yes.
So they really aren't in a position where they can afford to lose this game. No. If they lose this game, they could find themselves ousted again and right back in the heat of it. They're at home here in front of their fans in UCM. This is the game to make it count. And if they do execute it, if they do find the win,
if they turn up like they did in that Romania game and play that game, maybe it'll be more than enough.
But they'll have found just one of the great comebacks from nowhere a year ago. They were giving away red cards. They were melting down before our very eyes. To see them rally and come back like this, they're one game away now from completing that story.
Mighty impressive. So and the flip side from Portugal point of view is that the victory is now an absolute must. They're 4 points adrift. They just have to win. If they don't, they are going to be out, and that's unfortunate for them. Unsurprisingly, this fixture is the one with the most history with both of these teams. They've played each other loads of times. Spain historically have dominated it, 26-11-2 record overall. But the last time that they played was last year, and Portugal took a resounding victory in that one. That was in Lisbon, but 43-28. Very good score. And Portugal's penchant for scoring tries could see them do damage to the Spanish hopes yet. But as you say, we are going to look at both teams and how they want to get after this one in this all-important Iberian grudge match. And we're going to start with the host, which are Spain. Santiago Santos will likely select the side that did such a great job against Romania.
Clean bill of health.
No injuries in that one, and just a fantastic performance. So very much an if it ain't broke, don't fix it mindset to that, and let the guys go out and do it again for you. Defence was very impressive against Romania, to be honest. They managed to shut them down very, very early on, and they know that they're going to be challenged by this high-flying Portugal team that now has some returning operators of high quality as well. So.
Yeah, indeed. It's a different challenge this week, but a similar one in the sense that the way they approached the game last week was it was wise in the sense that they did their homework on Romania. They saw the success that Romania had been having through that midfield, and they shut it down.
Yeah.
They shut it down off first phase consistently every time in that opening 30 minutes. And now they're going to have done different homework on this very different Portuguese offence, and come out with a plan basically to stymie that. The Lobos are going to try and hit them with wide passing. They're going to try and get their wingers involved near enough off every play. There'll be one winger on the edge. There'll be another winger coming on Portella's inside. Those are the kind of plays to watch out for. You can't sit down on Appleton once he gets the ball, because he's going to fizz a pass over the top.
Indeed.
Like Jimeno and his brilliant defensive reading is going to be less in the game, because Portugal don't tend to use their midfield as a hit-up option like Romania do.
It's true.
So I'll be curious to see how Spain adjust to that. They'll need to be aggressive around the ruck, slow, making things messy for Marrakesh, but they will need to be well spaced.
Stay connected and try and bottle up that inside and force Portugal into blind alleys there. Then you can gobble them up, because physically they probably do have a slight advantage here in terms of just physicality across the board, but it doesn't necessarily matter if you kind of get flat-footed or get caught ball watching against this Portugal side.
Absolutely. One area that they will back themselves, the loose forward defence is going to have to be very miserly on the inside, just watching those inside balls that Portela loves to go to. I'll imagine they'll have done their homework on that and be ready to line up any wingers in and around the fringes. I think gone are the days in this tournament of just no pillars and Portugal able to make hay in that way. You can't
allow them to do that. Force them to score a different
That was
try.
Last year.
Force them to stick 2 or 3 passes before they find their way through. But squeeze them in the tight is definitely an area, because the Spanish pack was very, very impressive, and it wasn't just the back row, it was the tight 5 as well against Romania. It was very
the two
good.
locks, Mora and Guillaume, who were just shutting down Romanian mauls for fun by the end of the game, but also had these physical contacts where they were forming mauls. Those guys, huge assets.
Put themselves on the Portuguese tight 5, because that is where Portugal have tended to show their Achilles heel, and just kind of fading with that physicality and just kind of having it wear on them, particularly if they're away from home here as well. Make them feel it in the intensity of the collision area, and just the kind of workload and the work rate of your forward pack in general. If you can put themselves about and put them to task like that, you'll be able to kind of squeeze Portugal and suck the life out of them, and hopefully get good returns in the second half when they're starting to fly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, like, there will be moments in this game when Portugal get on top of them, but they trust their own offense. The Spanish offense is so good, they trust it to do the job.
Indeed.
So they
Rue
should be,
and Ordaz, get them moving.
Yeah, exactly. So they should be confident of their ability to score tries on one end, to the point where they know that it'll just take a few big defensive stands. Like, they might concede 2 tries, they might concede 3 tries, but in 1 or 2 occasions to be able to choke them, hold them up, force a scrum, and then launch yourselves, that could be the difference between winning or losing. Sure, look at the score in the last year's game, 43-28.
Indeed.
We've seen a lot of that this year. So Spain, just from a defensive point of view, 1 or 2 big plays, and then the other areas, like when you do get opened up, which will happen on occasions in this game in Madrid, it does, like, calm down and don't compound the issue. Like, it's one thing going down to 14 against Romania, but when the way Portugal play, the extent to which they stretch the whole field, you'll feel 14 men differently against Portugal. You really will.
Yeah, no, it's going to it'll be a costly card if they are to get one, and it is still a bad habit that when they are under the cosh, because you got to accept that they will be. You're right in saying, like, points will happen. Portugal will score points against them. You got to accept that. You got to be kind of realistic in that approach and not allow it to be a panic play that you're doing that it ultimately ends up yielding some penalty, try, yellow card or something, and that is just a nightmare scenario all of a sudden, where it didn't really need to be. A 5 or a 7 pointer can be chalked off with your own 5 or 7 pointer.
That's crazy consistent from them as well.
It
is.
Like, it's, no, it even happened
1 or 2 cards every game.
Last week or 2 weeks ago against Romania was one of the best performances I've seen from a Spanish rugby team, and yet still it had a stupid moment of ill discipline that yielded a card. Two of them,
cards in the game.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's way too consistent, and it's going to be costly if they just don't need to react the way they do. They make it very obvious, particularly like sacking mauls the way that they do sometimes, just devoid of subtlety and devoid of kind of macro rationale or like rational thinking, going like, it's not the end of the world if they it's not the end of the world if we concede a 7-pointer. It could be if we concede a red card with it. Then it's like,
absolutely. One of the more positive points from them, though, one of the key points of difference that was there against Romania that they'll look to go back to, was the sheer quality of that kicking game. And I'll tell you what, in moments, Ordaz, you talk about Tato Absendadza, Ordaz looks like well ready for prime time. In that sense, he looks like, hey, French top tourist clubs, pick me up, lad. He looked really good last week. Some of the kicks that came out of him were fabulous.
That Madrid air, they do fly as well, but they all strike them well. And actually, to be fair, Portugal will be bringing a bit of that as well. I'd expect some of the midfield kicking to be just of a stellar quality for a tier 2 clash, because you'll be looking at really good footballing guys pinging balls back and forth.
100%. But I also think, like, Spain will fancy themselves having the edge, particularly at home, and it is the kind of thing that could decide a game. The territory, just at the odd 50-22. I mean, the side with the most offensive sets is going to be the side that wins this game. Probably true. So making sure that Spain are on the right side of that will hinge a lot on their halfbacks, but also their dogger forwards and their back field. They can all kick a ball.
They all can, and just be proactive with their kicking game and ask a few good questions and set themselves up for good red zone drives and get some points on the board. That's got to be about it. What it's about. That UCM stadium, the surface is nice on it for running rugby. They do like to run the ball themselves. Expect some high scoring stuff. Don't panic when Portugal are in their purple patch, but be ready to kind of strike back. And also like recognising key moments as well. Like Romania did a great job against Portugal of, even when they were running away with it in their purple patch, pegging them back with one before half time. Having recognition of those moments and dialing that in could be a good in for Spain to kind of discourage Portugal as well.
Yeah, no question. The Portuguese can be got at. But as I said, they should trust their offence. Their offence at its best in burying the lead in terms of what they were. The reason we're not focusing on it is because you trusted at this stage so much to deliver. They are relentless. Their offloading is probably what separates them more than anything. They run great tracking lines, and once the line is broken, they all throw brilliant offloads. There's basketballs from 1 through 15 through 23. They can all stick a pass. They all have a great read on the game. It's rather French-like in the way that they execute and find delicious tries.
And Jimeno run betwixt Appleton and Portela all day and scythe through that little line that he runs very, very well.
I mean, that's that captain's battle in the 12 shirt between Appleton and Jimeno is box office itself. But I mean, since the beginning of last year, they have, since including all Rugby Europe games since the beginning of last year, including their poor start to it, they have averaged 36 points per game in this competition.
Awesome.
Insane return. And if they can deliver the more of the same, mind their discipline, mind their defence, and
get the scores on
the board, they'll be in a great position to secure a famous home win and complete the remarkable comeback all the way to the World Cup.
That's the plan from Spain's point of view. But other ideas on the other side for Os Lobos, and coach Patrice Legisque will be hoping that this is the time to unstick that Spanish team and bury them, do the double over them, and claim their spot in the World Cup that way. They're going to be expecting that the out half Portela, as we were billing, is going to be back in. They have struggled in his absence. He took a knock in week 1 against the Georgians and hasn't been back on the field since, but they do look better with Marques at 9 and him at 10. Obviously that would be the ideal one, Marques as well, to come back into the team from last week and just start pulling strings again and kicking their kicks and whatnot.
And Rafa Storti back as well.
He got some minutes. That gives some good headaches because both of those Pintos were playing well, and they still have a Marta on one wing who's not going anywhere.
Indeed, so they have lovely options on the field. They can start Storti maybe on the bench and go with what they've had, or they could bring him in. There has been electric plays from those back three players. They did a great job. One forgets living with the power game that Romania and Georgia brought in the opening 2 rounds. They relented ultimately towards the tail end of the second game.
The second game was too much for them. 2 big away trips to Eastern Europe side, to the big sides. This is their last away trip of the calendar year and their last fixture to fulfill, so there's no reason to not empty the gas tank completely in this one, and they'd hope to see a proper 80-minute showing now with the week off, because they did finish the game well even in that week 1 in Georgia, and I'd expect with everything on the line, you'd expect them to be going for the full hog for the 80 minutes.
Absolutely. The one area you'd worry about is the defence. It matched up pretty well against Georgia in large stages. Like, you had those great that great last stand on the goal line after Georgia had opened them up to stop them from scoring. You had long protracted sequences against Romania, particularly in the first half, where the Oaks couldn't get anything off against them. This is a different level job. This Spanish team has been electric. You've got to obviously have eyes on Jimeno on the inside.
You do.
But they are going to be determined to give a good show of themselves. It's the toughest task that they'll have had defensively in a long while, and a bit as it was with Spain, it'll take 1 or 2 key moments to unseat them. But the other area that kind of determines the game as well, the kicking game that we were talking about with Spain, in terms of setting up the field position that gives one side more drives than the other. Portugal, their kicking game needs to be slightly different for me. They need to kick to recover, because their wingers and their back 3 players in general are phenomenal in the air.
Marta and Storti are brilliant in the air, the pair of them. They've yielded a fair few tries over the last couple of years, but even good defensive kind of interception, like really good educated stuff in the aerial contest. And with a boot like Marques's, you should be going to that. He dictates things from the base anyway. Get those box kicks going, get the chase going, try and get the back 3 down
kicks
themselves.
On an occasion. They've yielded tries for them.
You're
getting Marta and Storti involved any way that they can,
and bypassing the likes of Jimeno and Ordaz and Rue entirely, and just kind of making it not about them, and being the smarter, more savvy, more quick team, which is difficult because these are the 2 probably quickest teams in the competition, and it is Spain's home ground. But Portugal have prided themselves on being not just quick but clever in the way that they move the pill, and the the areas they look to attack.
Just present a different picture, like play some ruck avoidance, keep the tempo going. Marrakesh can do that. That they've got the dynamic runners to open things up. You trust the handling skills of Lima and Appleton on the inside as well, so you can go there too, but it needs to be up tempo, quick, and just presenting a very, very different picture to those Spanish locks that looked very comfortable with what Romania were doing,
and the pace
might not be
Romania,
comfortable.
Exactly. And if you can, yes, the matchup in the tight five is a challenge for them, and they will have to they'll have to throw everything into it because they are probably the smaller side, and they're going to struggle to last the pace because the contacts will be big. But the flip side is with a quick tap followed by a petulant scrag of Marrakesh or something, then suddenly they're playing only 14 big men.
They keep the tempo up, you might just get them hot-headed.
Indeed, which is a key factor in trying to unstick Spain, is get them frustrated, get them angry, get them seeing red, and then
all of a sudden they're at home in Madrid, and this is a must-win game, and if it's not going their way, they haven't dealt with pressure too well so far, Spain. So that is the question mark.
Yeah,
can Portugal do that?
Can they turn the screw and put pressure on them? And it's not the same way as traditionally they might do in terms of putting the squeeze on through mauls or whatever. It's a very Portuguese way of doing it, with attack, with speed, with incisiveness, and just with kind of a clever bit of play that backs their skill set. Well, my favourite thing about this team is how much they back their skill set and how much they back themselves to get things done.
You may score 30, but we'll score 40.
That's it. That's the way it's got to be.
Is that the way you see this game going? I'm curious, because it
could tighten up.
They've been brilliant, these offences, and consistently we've been seeing scores in the 40s and 30s from both sides in this competition so far. But with everything on the line in Madrid,
maybe not.
Does it tighten
doesn't
up?
become a box kicking game in the middle third? I don't know. Maybe that's definitely a maybe picture. But no, I think on balance, with the weather the way it is, even if it's tighter, you'll still be looking at winning score of 30 something, losing score of 20 something kind of. I think both sides will score tries. I just think
offense is too good.
Yeah, I think they're both offenses match up better than the defense on the other end, to be honest. So it'll be about who controls that middle third, whose kicking game is slightly better, whose set piece is slightly better, whose control of their temperament is slightly better in the key moments as well. That'll be the decisive
So who are you leaning towards, my guy?
Well, I'm gonna hedge and say Portugal, because I want them in.
You love Portugal.
I love Portugal, but to be honest, the momentum's with Spain, and Spain look very, very good as well, and they could I do see the avenue for Spain to win it as well. I see it going either way, but I'm gonna hedge with Portugal, because I'm in their camp now whole hog. I've just loved what they've done, and I think if there's justice, I think they deserve on balance over their 2-year campaign to get in, but it doesn't always play out that way.
It would be really rough to miss out. They'd miss out on the back really of 2 tough games against Romania if that's the way it does go. I'm torn as well. I can totally see avenues for both teams. I also love Portugal, but I do really respect what Spain have done, and I thought their performance against Romania was outstanding. But then the week prior, I thought Romania's performance against Portugal was outstanding, and the week prior to that, I thought Portugal's performance against Georgia was outstanding. And yet it keeps yinging and yanging and toing and froing, and you don't really know which way it's going to go. But I'm very much torn on it, but I will give the edge to the home side just in UCM,
home advantage in Madrid, perhaps.
A heartbreaker. Another. You know what? It would be another late winner, and that's potentially the way it'll go for Portugal. Just those last quarters
doing them in, which they have done so far. No, it could go that way. I'm gonna hedge with Los Lobos. You got Los Leones. Who do you got? Where are you watching this one from? Let us know in the comments down below. I'm very excited for these 2 climactic battles in Rugby Europe and in Rugby World Cup qualifier stakes. It's just it's awesome to see.
The dust will be close to settling come next week. These 2 games are huge in deciding which ways these European places go. So do join us next week, as we'll be looking ahead to the final week of Rugby Europe. But yes, find your way to rugbyeurope.eu and find your way to these games, because they are huge this week and the quality is outstanding. It really is.
It's been a fantastic tournament. It really has.
Absolutely. But with that, we are going to move on.
Thank you very much for watching that video. If you're new here, please do like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified when we upload again. But mainly, please drop a comment down below. We enjoy hearing your thoughts on it. Thanks.